How y'all doing? I am Doc Wrestling, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of Don't Oversell Wrestling. And today we're going to be talking about another what if. What if Chyna, the ninth wonder of the world, didn't stop wrestling for WWE and the women's revolution came at an earlier date? So, of course, we go into the history. After high school, of course, she went to college in actually Spain. After that, she became a bodybuilder, and then she actually trained in Killer Kowalski's wrestling school. Her earlier matches were actually set up by the fabulous Moolah, and it's crazy to say that knowing what Moolah actually did to women's wrestling in like the 80s, knowing that she had prostituted women and held women back and actually cheated women out of their money and all types of stuff in order to get over so that she can be better than everybody else. And then, she even gave anybody who actually made it a push is crazy. Call her Pimp Master Moolah. Moolah. So the way WWE tells the story is Shawn Michaels and Triple H was in the gym, and then all of a sudden they seen Chyna, and Chyna was like, oh yeah, I like to wrestle, and then she came on the scene. That's not what happened at all. So she did meet Shawn Michaels and Triple H because she had already been wrestling in other promotions, little promotions, of course, indie shows, and doing whatever she can to get it in. Triple H and Shawn seen one of her matches and was like, well, we can bring her in as a bodyguard. Vince didn't see it, and a lot of the guys didn't see it and didn't want her as a female getting over on men, even though, they had people like Sunny kind of doing it, but she wasn't doing it, or Luna Vachon, who wasn't doing it at a bigger scale like that, actually putting hands on men and throwing them around like they another man. So at the same time, WCW was putting together this crazy little group called the NWO, and they had gave her an offer to be a part of that. When Killer Kowalski found out, he said, nah, go to WWE, FE, whatever, with Vince McMahon, told Shane pick her up before they did, and that's where that started. Ultimately, she became one of the founding members of D-Generation X with Shawn Michaels, Rick Rude, and Triple H. And everybody knew she was a big draw. Like, she was a strong woman who can really pick up a dude and throw them. So she did little stuff to other managers until she actually got her opportunity to go in the ring and do some work. But at the same time, people didn't want nobody coming up to them with this strong vagina coming up looking like a man, like about to put their hands on them. Nah, I don't know. You don't want that. Nobody wants that in their life. Actually, when she was kicking it from the 99 to the 2000, she was killing the scene, especially being a woman in wrestling. She was the number 13 in the Royal Rumble. She actually qualified for the King of the Ring. She was the first and only woman to win the Intercontinental title at that year's No Mercy against Jeff Jarrett, which was his last match in the company until he came back to the Royal Rumble for nothing. She then teamed with Eddie Guerrero to beef with Eddie Guerrero. She actually made the cover of Playboy, and then she left WWE in 2001, November. After a stint in WWE, she actually had a few matches in New Japan and then went over to TNA. And her final match was in 2011 when she actually tag teamed with Kurt Angle against Jeff Jarrett. Now, her reason for leaving WWE in 2001 was mostly because of relationship issues with Triple H, Stephanie, and all that other BS. It was pretty much she didn't want kids, come to find out. And Triple H wanted kids. So they went their separate ways. But at the same time, by her still being on the scene, it kind of looked kind of iffy. And a lot of people were still saying stuff. And this is stuff that, of course, WWE isn't going to put up there. So that was pretty much the reason for them, pushing her off, not really giving her long matches or anything like that. Like, her last match in WWE, I believe, was like 4 minutes or something like that. Like, she threw the girl around, threw the little pyro. I think her entrance was longer than her actual match. But the icing on the cake for her really leaving WWE was definitely the porno made with X-Pac, unfortunately. A Night in Chyna. Nasty. So nasty. So what if China actually would have been able to see or stick around long enough, I guess, to say to see other women wrestle and women's wrestling change? She would have actually had to do that with Trish Stratus. She would have had good matches against Victoria and Lita, Tori Wilson and Melina, and actually Molly Holly. And what people don't even know is the first female steel cage match was Victoria versus Lita, with big names from other companies like Gail Kim and Awesome Kong coming over to WWE. Those beefs and that story could have lasted a good 6 to 8 months. Not saying that it would have necessarily had to entail the women's title or the Divas title or whatever title it was at the time, but at the same time, it still would have been something more entertaining than bra and panties and pillow fights and bikini contests and mud fights and all that other stuff that they was filling time with women wrestling instead of actually women wrestling. Bring back the bikini contest. And they can actually gave the women good stories and stuff that actually made sense and stuff that women would actually fight about. I mean, I understand we all know women would fight about almost anything, but at the same time, give them something to, really beef about, a tag title. And that could have been something, especially with the next group coming in. I say like the Attitude or Ruthless Aggression era. At the end of that, you still had the Alicia Foxes, Bellas, Layla, Michelle McCool, Jillian Hall, Kelly, Maurice, and that was you would have already had a stable group there to train them and show them the WWE way so that they could bring on, a new group and bring on some more strong pussies. And not to say there wouldn't have been a need for a women's revolution, but at the same time, the women's revolution kind of already is going on. If they're having all these good matches, we would have already gotten the women's tag team division. And just imagine if we would have got that. We could have got Lay Cool versus Chyna and Nicole Bass. We could have got the Bellas versus Maurice and Gail Kim in a ladder match for the women's tag titles. And at the same time, the women's Money in the Bank could have actually started back then, and we could have actually even started a Queen of the Ring tournament. Now, with all these women wrestlers and women's wrestling in WWE already excelling, not to say that the Four Horsewomen still couldn't have killed in NXT and put on some of the best matches that we've seen from women in years, they still would have came up and it would have still been a strong group already there. And I was thinking about it, like, imagine if we still had these great wrestlers from, the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression coming up into the women's revolution as we know it today. We could have got Chyna, AJ Lee, Victoria, Beth Phoenix, Gail Kim versus Charlotte Flair, Banks, Bayley, Becky, and Paige. Survivor Series elimination tag match. Let's go. So there's a few ways you can check me out. You can check me out right here on YouTube at Don't Oversell Wrestling. You can actually check me out on Instagram TV at DosW. You can also check me out on my Facebook group at Don't Oversell Wrestling, and on Facebook at Don't Oversell Wrestling as one word. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think. And I'm out.